And I mean, you're not talking, you see the CPI figures and you're thinking, pretty sure life's going up at a faster rate than, what is it, 3%?
What's CPI?
The consumer price index is inflation.
Oh, okay.
So the government have a target CPI of 2% at all times. And they're always trying to get either back down to it or back up to it.
Remember a few years ago, it was like 10%.
Yes, it was, yeah. So this was soon after the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and it was when inflation was very, very high. A lot of that was to do with supply chain issues and the hangover from COVID, and the expense it was or the expense that trade had become. Construction prices were going through the roof. And that affected the CPI. Yeah, right, it was above 10% at one point. It is back down now almost to target levels. That's been done through a combination of reduced spending, fiscal policy from the government, and monetary policy from the Bank of England by increasing interest rates. Because in increasing interest rates, it sounds harsh, but it squeezes the population, the majority of the population who have mortgages. If you increase interest rates, your mortgage costs go exponentially higher, and that means you have less money to spend. Therefore, there's less money being spent, prices come back down. So there's this constant cycle and battle that the Bank of England and the government try and keep inflation under control, whilst not enraging the entire population with everything costing too much.
I must say, I haven't felt the actual prices go down. Like earlier on today, I bought some ingredients to make my own pizza at home. And to be honest, it would have been cheaper just buying pizzas from a local takeaway, you know.
Really?
Yeah, you know. But at the same time, I did buy a whole packet of mints and things like that.
Yeah.
So I could, make bits to go on top of the pizza. But even still, I think I bought a kilo of mints so I could use the other bit to make some bolognese afterwards.
Okay, yeah. So you're being smart with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like £9.10 for a kilo of mints, 5% fat, where it used to be, I think it was like £5 something, £6 something a few years ago.
Yeah. I think this is, CPI is essentially, they take a basket of goods.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you would have in a supermarket. Yeah. They calculate the cost of it increasing year on year. But I mean, I've done some articles in the past around energy prices, insurance prices, all these sorts of things, and life is in reality more expensive than a 2% increase year on year. And that's where long-term investing comes into it, because if you just have it's great to save, of course it is, and having money in cash is fantastic because that's there in case you ever need it. But the interest rate the bank's going to pay you is not going to keep pace with living costs. So if you have a significant amount of money in the bank account and you don't do anything with it, years down the line, that will erode in value. It's a surefire way of reducing your wealth. Yeah. So you need to do something with the majority of your savings. You need to do something, whether it's investing in a diversified portfolio. Yeah. The asset allocation of that portfolio, very much down to your level of risk, but that's still going to be better than having money sat in the bank account. Yeah. There's lots of different ways you can invest, and that's obviously something that you'd need to figure out or speak to an advisor about. But try and do something with it.
A way I used to explain that to my friends would be, like say you had £10,000 and, the inflation increase was, say, 10% or something like that, but your bank will probably only give you maybe 1.5 to something like that percent on top.
Yeah, in a current account, probably even less.
Yeah. I used to tell them you'll be better off holding cans of Coke. Because, that can of Coke will go out more in value than your actually money sitting in the bank would be, because that can of Coke would go from 70p to £1 or something like that. Yeah. Whereas the money in your bank will go from 10,000 to 10,050 pounds.
Yeah, and in today's terms, that 10,000 is probably going to be worth 6,000 in 10 years. It's
couldn't buy as much cans of Coke anymore.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's a great way. It's a great way of putting it. Yeah, cans of Coke.
Yeah. You could buy 10,000 cans of Coke now. Yeah. In a couple of years, that same money would only probably afford you 9,000 cans of Coke.
But you've got £10,000 worth of cans of Coke still.
Yeah, exactly.
You could even drink a few and still be better off.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Money, innit? Right, so speaking of percentages though, what percentage of monthly income should go towards rent? And does that change if you have a mortgage?
It's a good question. Typically, 50% of your income is spent on essentials, bills, but that also includes things like utilities and water, gas, electric. Probably 80% of that category is your rent and your mortgage, or rental or mortgage. I mean, rental is a set cost. You know, that doesn't increase until the landlord increases your rents.
Yes.
That can be completely down to the landlord at their discretion. So there's the risk that it can change in that sense. And a mortgage, depending on the type of mortgage you have, if you have a fixed rate for a period of time, you know that's what the cost is going to be. Mm-hmm. If it's variable, then your mortgage cost is liable to change depending on the Bank of England interest rate. So mortgages can be even more fixed than rent. They can also be more variable than rent, depending on the type of mortgage that you have. But in terms of the cost in total, with interest rates as they currently are, and around about the somewhere between 3 and 4%, it probably is not going to make a huge amount of difference if it's the same type of property, how much it costs in rent and how much you pay in mortgages. A few years ago, when interest rates were 0.25%, for a similar type property, it probably was a lot more expensive to rent than it would have been to have a mortgage.
Okay.
2 years later, as we just said, when interest rates were chasing inflation, it was up at 10%.
Yeah.
Mortgages became more expensive than rent.
Yeah.
And in fact, just the interest alone on those mortgage payments was as expensive as rent. And then you add on your repayment as well, and all of a sudden it's a really chunky amount that you're paying month on month.
And if you was having a fixed mortgage, you're probably still stuck on terrible rates now, would you?
Yeah, well, if you took it out when the rates were high, yes. Yeah. Some people took out 5-year mortgages back in 2021. We're laughing now because they saw out all that period where the interest rates peaked and then came back down, and they were still paying their low rates of 1.5%, 2%, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yes. If you got a 5-year mortgage, you're in a nice position anyway, right?
Yeah. That's if you can get it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure most people are like 25, 30 years. And
I mean a 5-year term on the rate.
Oh, okay.
So you can renew, it'd be like normally a 35, 30, 25-year mortgage, isn't it?
True.
But you take it out in stages. You go, right, we'll fix in for 2 years.